Here's another one. It's the quiet ones you gotta watch. Every time I see a news story about a mass murderer, the guy's neighbor is always saying, well, he was very quiet. And someone I'm sitting with says, it's the quiet ones you gotta watch. This sounds like a very dangerous assumption. I'll bet you anything that while you're busy watching a quiet one, a noisy one will fucking kill you. Suppose you're in a bar and one guy is sitting over on the side reading a book, not bothering anybody, and another guy is standing up at the front banging a machete on the bar screaming, I'm gonna kill the next motherfucker who pisses me off. Who you gonna watch? Lock 'em up and throw away the key. This is one you hear a lot from men. Men like to talk that way. Makes them feel tough. Guy sees a rapist on the TV news. He says, you see that guy? They ought to lock him up and throw away the key. This is really stupid. First of all, every time the guy's got to take a shit, you're going to have to call a locksmith. If he's in prison 30 years, even if he's eating government cheese, it's going to cost you a fortune. Second, where do you throw the key? Right out in front of the jail? His friends will find it. How far can you throw a key? 50, 60 feet the most. Even if you hold it flat on its side and scale it, what do you get? An extra 10 feet tops. This is a stupid idea that needs to be completely rethought. Down the tubes. That's one you hear a lot, you know. People say, the country is going down the tubes. What tubes? Have you seen any tubes? Where are these tubes? And where do they go? And how come there's more than one tube? It would seem to me, one country, one tube. What, does every state all of a sudden have to have its own tube now? One tube is all you need. But a tube that big? Somebody would have seen it by now. Somebody would have said, hey, Joey, look at a fucking tube. Big-ass fucking tube over here. You never hear that. You know why? No tubes. We don't have tube one. We are, sorry to say, tubeless. Takes the cake. Boy, he really takes the cake. Where? Where do you take a cake? To the movies? You know where I would take a cake? Down to the bakery to see the other cakes. And how come he takes the cake? How come he don't take the pie? A pie is easier to carry than a cake. Easy as pie. A cake is not too hard to carry either. Piece of cake. The greatest thing since sliced bread. So this is it? A couple of 100,000 years? Sliced bread? What about the pyramids, the Panama Canal, the Great Wall of China? Even a lava lamp, to me, is greater than sliced bread. What's so great about sliced bread? You got a knife, you got a loaf of bread, slice the fucking thing, and get on with your life. Out walking the streets. There's another one you hear from men. Some guy sees a rapist on the news. Same rapist as before, only this time he's being released. Guy says, you see that? You see that guy? They're letting that guy go. Now, instead of being in prison, he's out walking the streets. How do we know? How do we know he's out walking the streets? Maybe he's home banging the babysitter. Not everyone gets a parole is out walking the fucking streets. A lot of times they steal a car. We ought to be glad. Thank God he stole a car. At least he's not out walking the streets. Fine and dandy. That's an old-fashioned one, isn't it? Yeah. You say to a guy, how are you? He says, fine and dandy. Not me. I never say that. You know why? Because I'm never both of those things at the same time. Sometimes I'm fine, not dandy. Close to dandy, approaching dandy. In the vicinity of dandyhood, not quite fully dandy. Other times I might be indeed highly dandy. However, not fine. One time, 1978, August, for about an hour, I was both fine and dandy at the same time. But nobody asked me how I was. I could have told them, fine and dandy. I consider it a lost opportunity. Walking papers. Some guy gets fired. They say, well, they give him his walking papers today. Let me ask you something. Did you ever get any walking papers? Seriously? Believe me, in my life, I got fired a lot of times. Never got any walking papers. Never got a pink slip either. You know what I would get? A guy would come around to my desk and say, "Get the fuck out of here!" You don't need paper for that. The Riot Act. They keep saying they're going to read that to you. Tell the truth. Have you ever heard this thing at all, this Riot Act, ever? It's a bigger problem when you're a kid. They like to threaten you with that. You wait till your father comes home. He's going to read you the Riot Act. Oh, yeah? Well, tell him I already read it myself, and I didn't like it either. I consider it wordy and poorly thought out. If he wants to read me something, how about the Gentleman's Guide to the Golden Age of Tongue-Kissing? More than happy. I bet you say that sometimes, don't you? I bet you say, "Oh, I'd be more than happy to do that." How can you be more than happy? To me, this sounds like a dangerous mental condition. We had to put Laszlo under physical restraint. He was more than happy. One more of these expressions, in your own words. You hear that in classrooms a lot, or courtrooms. They'll say, "Tell us in your own words." Do you have your own words? Personally, I'm using the ones everybody else has been using. Next time they tell you to say something in your own words, say, "Nick flot blorny quando floon." Dogs come in all sizes. There are a lot of little dogs, and there are a lot of big dogs. And when I say big dogs, I don't mean just big dogs. I mean big, fucking huge goddamn dogs. Some people have dogs that look more like livestock. Dogs that ought to be wearing commercial license plates. What the hell is that? That's my dog. Jesus, man, he blocked out the sun. That's Tiny. He's a great Alaskan horse moose dog. Say hello, Tiny. No, Tiny. Put the man down. Put him down. Bad dog. Little dogs are different. Little dogs jump all around, and their legs move real quick. They got those teeny little legs. They got legs that if you feel around under the fur, it's like a pepperoni stick under there. Sometimes they jump up high. Some of them can jump clear up onto a real high bed. Boom! Holy shit, what a jump. Let me see you do that again. And then I put them back on the floor. Boing! God, I can't believe it. Come on, one more time. Back onto the floor. Boing! And I make him keep doing it, and doing it, and doing it over and over until he gets all tired out and can't quite reach the bed anymore. Then I let him fall short a few times and crash back onto the floor. Then, and only then, if I decide I want him on the bed, I put him up there myself. It's my decision. I buy the dog food. Besides, if you do allow him on the bed, sooner or later he'll create an incident. Before the evening is over, he will force one of the humans to turn to the other and say, "Honey, did you fart?" "Not me. I thought you farted." "Not me. That's not even one of my farts. I told you I've got 4 farts. My Heineken's fart, my broccoli fart, my rice pudding fart, and my non-dairy creamer fart. And the fart I'm smelling right now is definitely not one of mine." Wait a minute, I know. The dog farted. Fleeky farted. Fleeky, why did you fart? Look at him. Look how guilty he looks. He knows he farted. I seen his asshole open up. I seen it. Huh? Well, I just happened to be looking at his asshole by chance, that's all. What kind of a question is that? I was simply glancing at his asshole, and I saw it open up. I thought he was doing some kind of deep breathing exercise. I had no idea he was into chemical warfare. Have you noticed that most people who are against abortion are people you wouldn't want to fuck in the first place? Conservatives are physically unattractive and morally inconsistent. They're obsessed with fetuses from conception to 9 months, but after that they have no interest in you. None. No daycare, no Head Start, no school lunch, no food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. If you're preborn, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked. Once you leave the womb, conservatives don't care about you until you reach military age. Then you're just what they're looking for. Conservatives want live babies so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. Pro-life. How can they be pro-life when they're killing doctors? What sort of moral philosophy is that? We'll do anything to save a fetus, but we might have to kill it later on if it grows up to be a doctor.